I reside in an apartment building that, from what I was told, used to be an insane asylum long ago. I've been living here for the past 9 years, and have had some very paranormal experiences here throughout that time. Here are just a few. 1. There was a bad storm resulting in a complete power outage, so it was pitch black in the entire vicinity, not just in the building. I lit 2 candles encased in glass containers, with paintings of Christ on each. One candle was green, and the other was red. I think the colors may have been of some significance in witchcraft, but the pictures of Jesus on them was all that mattered to me. The candles illuminated my whole area. They were each placed in large open windows. I put them out before I fell asleep. At approximately 2 o'clock a.m., I was awakened by a horrifying demonic presence at the foot of my bed. But it wasn't visible. The best way I can describe its sound is like that of a cow being slaughtered, combined with a full-grown roaring lion and grizzly bear. It was absolutely terrifying from the way it sounded. I dreaded seeing its appearance. While it roared at me, my chest suddenly started hurting, and my body was completely paralyzed, nor could I speak. This lasted about 20 seconds. Then it was gone, and everything was back to normal. Then I got up, blessed the place with palm leaves and olive oil and Jesus' mighty name, and disposed of the candles. Everything was peaceful afterward, until recently. One night, something walked right out of my bathroom. The bathroom door was open right next to my bedroom. It was a dark figure with red eyes and a rotten egg smile coming off it. It made a most awful noise. I was paralyzed with fear, and I thought for sure that was the end. I blacked out, and when I came to, it was gone. I went back to sleep, and this time I saw a dark figure, but I couldn't make it out, because this seemed to be taking place in the spiritual realm. I couldn't physically move, but I could spiritually. So in the spirit, I quickly made the sign of the cross, and the evil entity suddenly vanished. The next night, my shade was down, and I was 3 stories up from ground level. I saw a pair of red eyes peering at me through the window while I was laying in bed. Then I saw a little black imp running upside the wall of the apartment building, attempting to come in through the window. Suddenly, an angel appeared with a very large pointed sword and shot the imp. I haven't really told anyone this because it sounds ridiculous, and some of the incidents seem to be unreal. Even if that may be true, I still light my candles, lock my windows, and pray every night. I grew up in a city just north of Birmingham, Alabama, called Gardendale. I had a very unremarkable childhood, a very typical upbringing for the 1970s. When I was around 9 years old in 1979, we lived in a small house on the very quiet road. My sister, who's 1 year older, and I shared a room with each other at the time. It was a small house. I slept in the bed next to the door of the bedroom, and my sister's bed was across the room. One night I woke suddenly from a deep sleep. It was one of those times when you wake up and you're immediately wide awake. When I awoke, my eyes focused immediately on a small figure standing to the right of my bed. I remember not being scared for some reason, and the figure just stood there. It was white and it was glowing. Although it wasn't very bright, I could tell it was a female by the long hair, and she appeared young. Naturally, I automatically assumed it was my sister, and that she had gotten up for something and was possibly trying to scare me. So, I remember looking across the room toward my sister's bed. The low glow from the figure allowed me to see my sister lying in her bed sound asleep. I then turned back toward the figure, and we just stared at each other. The figure never moved or said a word. I didn't speak either. I just stared after what seemed like forever, but what I believe must have been only several minutes. I turned back to my sister and began calling her name. Again, the figure never moved. I was finally able to wake my sister. I told her in so many words that we need to head to our parents' bed. The next thing I remember was my sister and I jumping into the bed with my parents. My sister fell right back to sleep, but I kept watching the bedroom door for the rest of the night. The next morning, I wasted no time explaining what had happened to my parents. My sister actually admitted to seeing it too. After that night, I never saw the figure ever again. Years later, while talking about the incident with my mother, she told me that I don't know what you saw, but I know you saw it. I could tell in your eyes you were telling the truth. Also, she made the point that a boy my age would almost certainly have exaggerated the details of the story. However, I didn't. I stated over and over that the figure did nothing but stand there staring at me, never moving. Looking back now, I truly believe it was one of my guardian angels. The fact that I felt no fear whatsoever is proof enough for me that it was not evil. And trust me, at 9 years old I would have normally been scared and speechless. Like I said, I never saw her again, but I believe she was just letting me know she was there. We still own the house and currently rent it out. None of her former or present tenants have ever mentioned seeing anything out of the ordinary. I assume it was anything other than my guardian angel. Other people would have seen it by now since it's been 31 years. Anyways, it's something I think about a lot, and it always makes me feel at peace. I'm 18 years old, and I live in Killeen, Texas. I've lived in this area for 16 years of my life, and all of my experiences have happened here. It started when I was very young enough that I had to swim in the kiddie pool at a public pool. Otherwise, I would need a swimming vest to be in the deep end. My mother took my sister and me to the public pool in Harker Heights. She was with my younger sister Rachel in the deep end, and I was supposed to stay in the kiddie pool until it was my turn to swim with the help of my mother in the deep end. I was tired of waiting and ready to jump in, so you know what? I did a cannonball. I took a running start and jumped, but I jumped too soon and not far enough. The back of my head slammed into the concrete wall of the pool. I passed out and started to drown. I just remember falling asleep. I woke up with a lifeguard over me. He had performed CPR and revived me. I was carted off to the emergency room in an ambulance, only to be told that I was perfectly fine. A year or two later, I began having violent dreams. I told my mom about them, and she and her friends said they might be prophetic. These dreams continued, and I started seeing things while I was awake. Once I was talking to my mother and I started to cry, because I saw a kind of film or veil-like mist go over her face, and it was the face of a man snarling at me. After this, when I was 9 years old, I was diagnosed with clinical depression and anger. Things have increased more and more as I got older. Lately, there's been incidents where something was physically attacking me. I believe it to be a demonic spirit haunting me. Later this year, I woke up when it felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like something had me pinned down. I couldn't scream or cry for help. I could just barely see this black mass that sat over me. It was sitting on my chest. I'm usually a woman that can hold her own and defend her, but when something dark and demonic takes away your ability to fight back, it's probably one of the worst feelings ever. I hate feeling helpless. Then, as the cold air kept strangling me, I woke up. I believed it was a false awakening with a demonic attack. I tried doing my research, and a few weeks later my friend texted me saying that she couldn't get back to sleep after the experience she just had. She told me that she was awakened when she heard something step in between her bed and the fan that was next to the bed. She said that she was almost paralyzed by fear, but started reciting scripture. And when she did, this darkness spoke to her and said that God wouldn't help her because she was a sinner, because she was damned. She said she couldn't sleep again until about 6 a.m. After this, I opened up to her about what I had experienced. We agreed that we might have been targeted by something dark or demonic. After that, I met a guy named Seth who seemed nice and sweet. He and I spoke on Facebook a little and then started texting. Something about him caused me to pull away. Several times he told me that he desperately wanted a child. Once, he even said financially and realistically I'm not ready for a baby, but emotionally I need one. I'm sorry, what? What man has ever said I need a child? He hadn't even taken me on a date, and he was telling me what he expects of me. I started to get this feeling that I should cut off interaction with him. This was further validated when my sister said she heard a bang at her back door. I didn't see anything, but I locked all doors and went to bed. The same night I had a nightmare that I was in her kitchen, and I heard a loud bang. I looked over and saw Seth's face in the window near the back door. He was glaring at me and he burst in with a knife. That's all that happened, and I woke up shaking and immediately blocked his cell phone number on his Facebook page. A few days after this, I got a call from an unrecognized number. I answered it only to hear the angry voice of Seth. What happened? I can't find your page. Did you get my text? I hung up without saying anything and blocked the number. I haven't been harassed by him since. I believe my nightmare was a premonition of the possible future relationship spiraling into his control over me if I didn't break it off. So, I did. Thanks for listening, and if you're home alone and want to listen to a scary story, Click the link here for a paranormal horror story called Home Alone. Till next time, don't be too scared to sleep.